Welcome back. Onwards we're going with our journey through the major arcana, and in this lesson we're going to be looking at cards 8 and 9. Card number 8, the card of strength, and card number 9, the Hermit. Okay, so the strength card from the VIII deck. It's a fascinating and actually quite enigmatic image. You can see a woman dressed in white, but actually around her waist is a garland of red flowers, and she is also crowned with a crown of similar flowers. Look above her head, there is a upturned figure of 8, the figure of the lemniscate. It's the mathematical symbol of infinity. Now, if you look at the lion, that's where the image becomes very strange. She's very gently and very calmly pressing the lion's jaws together. In effect, she's subdued him, she's tamed him. Okay, so let's have a look at some of the other depictions. This is one of the more problematic cards in the major arcana. If you're going out and you're sort of searching for your first tarot deck, this is where you would actually see something strange, because in some decks, as with the VIII, strength comes as number 8 in the sequence. But then if we look at a lot of other decks, particularly sort of earlier decks, and also Aleister Crowley's Thoth tarot, this card is actually numbered 11 in the sequence. Now, just to briefly explain that, VIII follows the numbering of the Golden Dawn tradition. Now, the Order of the Golden Dawn, when they were devising their own tarot deck, they chose to renumber these cards and actually strength swap place with justice. I mean, if you look at some of these earlier decks, here we go. We'll come back to this in a minute. This is the Swiss 1JJ, and you can see there's justice in the position of number 8. Now, one of the reasons they did this is so that it would fit in with their sort of astrological and Kabbalistic attributions. They drew parallels to both of those disciplines within the major arcana. VIII and Pamela Coleman Smith were both members of the old Order of the Golden Dawn, so when VIII devised his tarot, he kept to that numbering system. So that's why in the majority of modern decks, strength is numbered 8. But if you do come across strength as 11, and justice is 8, that's the reason why. Does it change things in the course of a normal reading? Probably not, but certainly if you are using the tarot for sort of magical or ritual purposes, and the symbolism, it probably does make some difference. So, you know, it's important, but then for the purposes of a day-to-day reading, you know, it's a little bit by the by. So let's have a look at some of the earlier decks. This image has evolved considerably, particularly when you look at this. Let's go right back to the Visconti decks, and we see a very different image for strength. We see this poor lion being clubbed to death. This figure is possibly Hercules, so the subduing of the lion obviously has its roots in Greek myth. So here, this is an outright battle with a ferocious beast, whereas this, we're obviously dealing with a tamed beast. Okay? So let's have a look at the Marseille image. This actually is beginning to get a little bit closer to our Waite-Smith image. The earlier decks showed a male figure on the strength card, whereas here we have the female figure. And I do wonder whether it's a coincidence, and I think probably not. Look at the shape of her hat. It does bear a fair old resemblance to the infinity symbol. Now, whether the designer of this deck had that in mind, I doubt, but I do think that possibly VIII based, you know, part of the inspiration and the inclusion of the infinity symbol. It's a little bit too close for that to be too much of a coincidence, you know. Now, look at this one. This is interesting because actually, whereas VIII's figure is gently closing the jaws of the lion, the Marseille strength figure is pulling the jaws of the lion open. So this is almost like a battle of wills. You know, again, it's more the battle with the ferocious beast than it is, you know, the subduing of the tamed one. Okay. So, again, Marseille deck, there's Justice as number 8. So, and the same again with the 1JJ, Justice is number 8, Strength is numbered 11, but we're back to the Hercules symbolism here. This is very similar to the Visconti deck. He's actually doing battle with the lion. There's no, if you notice, he's not trying to open or close the lion's jaws, he's just actually in battle with him. Okay. So moving on to the Golden Dawn image. Very different from Waite's, but the principle is the same. Once again, we see a woman with a tamed lion. You can see the lion is red. Interestingly, when you look at the tail, this is a modern take on the Golden Dawn deck, by the way. This is not the original, but the symbolism is virtually identical. Look at the tail. The lion has a serpent's tail, so that does give an element of unpredictability. You know, you do get the sense that this lion could flip at any time. But yeah, there is obviously the woman and the lion are sort of in symbiosis with each other, you could say. You know, they're at peace with each other. Interesting, there's a green line in the background as well. I've got to be honest, I'm not sure what that means, but I tend to see green as a colour of peace as opposed to red as a colour of passion. So maybe again, it's another symbol of the taming of the lion. Okay. Now, here's another big difference when you get to the Thoth deck. Again, this is something you may encounter depending on the type of deck you choose to work with ultimately. Different decks sometimes rename, you know, some of the trumps, the major arcana are renamed. You'll see it in the minor arcana, obviously. The suit of pentacles sometimes appears as the suit of coins, the suit of discs. You know, you see lots of variants like that in the Heimdall Tarot, it's the suit of stones. The basic principle is the same. In this instance, and again, card number 11 in the Thoth deck, there is number 8, which is the Thoth equivalent of Justice, also renamed. We'll come to that later. In the Thoth deck, this card is renamed Lust. Now that will make sense as we look at the meanings of this card. But you can see here, the lion has become a multi-headed beast and the woman is riding it. Now, this actually draws some of its symbolism from the texts of Revelation in the Bible, when you know that you hear about the whore of Babylon riding the multi-headed beast. That's where the Thoth card comes from. So yeah, renamed Lust, but it's the equivalent card. Okay, so what does this actually rather curious figure mean? I see the Strength card as the taming of our inner fire, and it's the ability to, you know, to actually use our passions constructively but subdue them as needed. So this is very much a progression on from the previous card we looked at, the Chariot, which is actually sort of bringing opposing energies under control so that we can move forward. It's the card of triumph. This is the card, this is the archetype of self-control. Now, there's lots of different ways of portraying this. I mean, I'll show you my way of portraying this from my deck, the Healing Light Tarot, which is published by Lo Scarabeo. I chose different imagery again. You can see here, there's my take on the card. You can see two Atlas-like female figures holding up what looks like a sphere or a sun, and in the centre of that is a roaring lion. Now, the sphere represents containment. So if you think of our inner fire, our inner passions, with all of their wild potential, but they're contained. Now, these two figures here, one represents the conscious, one represents the unconscious. So, you know, it's very much a dual effort as we are, you know, basically we do have that duality within ourselves. Now this shows that the conscious and the unconscious are working together, and the passions are contained, but at the same time they're allowed to express themselves. So that's my take anyway. Going back to the weight, you see the white dress representing a purity of intention and a restraint, but obviously the garlands of red flowers represent that passion. They're in unity, and I would say that the infinity symbol above her head shows that they are eternally and totally interconnected. That's how we function. Now, if the lion is a metaphor for her raw fire energy and the strength of her passions, the fact that she's closing the lion's jaw shows that those passions are under control and contained. Now, you could look at it a different way. If you look at, say, the Marseille image, where she's pulling the lion's jaw open, there is still control, you know. The fact that she has the lion's jaws is an iron clasp. Of course, the lion wants to roar, wants to snap, wants to bite, wants to kill even. But actually, she is the stronger of the two. So even though it's a different approach, the idea, I would say, is the same. Sometimes in earlier decks, this card was referred to as the card of fortitude. So that is one of the ancient virtues. And fortitude is kind of a rock-solid strength. It's a strength of resolve, you know. It's a strength of sort of rock-steady calmness in the middle of a storm, you know. It's the ability to stand above your passions. It's the ability to let your passions roar around you but not be defined by them or not be controlled by them. And that's what she is. And again, she is, I think, actually in the position of number 8, I think it's very apt, because she does follow on from the Chariot, you know, which is all about bringing conflicting energies, you know, under control so that they're working together. She is the supreme mastery of that. But, you know, that's mastery of our hearts, mastery of our inner drives, you know, the ability to channel them and to use them for our good, but not to be controlled by them. So if, you know, if this appears in a reading, that's the kind of inner strength it denotes. We're not talking physical strength. I think that's actually referred to in other places in the tarot. Again, I suppose even if you are talking about physical strength, it's physical strength that's at your service. You know, this is the kind of person that doesn't fly off the handle or lose their temper, or isn't prey to their temper. It's calmness and serenity in the face of, you know, massive inner energy. Wonderful, wonderful figure. So if this card appears in a reading, that's what it represents, you know, as an overruling archetype. You know, if this appears in a reading, this is actually the discipline that you're actually being brought to face in your own life. You know, you are actually learning to control and channel your energies. So there you have it. That's the card of strength. Now, let's move on to the next card in the sequence. Let me just do a little bit of rearranging here. I've got more cards out than usual. So, the Hermit, card number 9. The archetype of solitude, for better or for worse. Okay. The archetype of wisdom through solitude. There we are. It's a fairly straightforward image in the Waite-Smith deck, and probably actually very much so in most of the other decks as well. You can see this Hermit is standing in a very high place. You know, there are mountains at his feet. It's night time. He has a staff. He's robed. So this actually sort of draws parallels with asceticism and a monk. So you could think of somebody in that respect who has withdrawn from society for a life of solitude and contemplation, perhaps. that solitude has taken him into a very solitary place. You can see the staff. Maybe you could draw a parallel with a magic wand with that staff, or a staff of support. And you can also see the hermit's lantern to light the way. He has no guidance because he's on his own, therefore he needs the light to guide him. Now, when you look closely at this lantern, it's not something I noticed at first when I first bought this deck all these years ago when I was in my teens, but the light is star-shaped in that lantern. So I actually see parallels, you know, sometimes I see the Star of David in there from, you know, an alchemical, you know, point of view. That's the, you know, the upright triangle of fire crossed with the downward triangle of water. So balance of the elements, balanced feelings, balanced mind, perhaps. Okay, so there he is, the archetype of solitude. What does he mean if he appears in a reading? I would say that the environment, you know, the ambience that you're stepping into is one where, you know, you have to find your own answers. You know, if he appears in a reading, that's basically to me what he means. This is about, you know, self-reliance, but it's also about stepping away from the world and from other people to take stock, to find your own inner reality, the need for silence, the need for space. Yeah, and I think it's the opposite of cards like the Lovers, which deal with relationship. You know, this card actually teaches us that we, you know, there are times in life where we don't need other people, you know, to define who we are, you know. So there's a lot in this card and a lot to think about. Incidentally, a card that a lot of people don't like to see in a reading. It's a card that very often I feared for years, you know. How many of us fear being on our own? That's a challenge in that card. So let's have a look at some of the other depictions. If we go back to the earliest decks, interestingly, the Hermit in the Visconti is holding an hourglass, and you see the staff but no lamp. There's an hourglass. That ties him possibly to Saturn, bringer of old age, and, you know, that's talking about the passage of time. But again, on top of that, it's still the solitude archetype. It's also a wisdom archetype. This is an old man. I mean, again, if you look at the rider, long beard, white beard, you know, wisdom through maturity. Okay. Similar again in the Marseille tradition. There you have it. Does he have a lamp? It's difficult to say. Yes, he does. It's just not very. It's not very clear the way it's coloured sometimes. But you can see he's holding up a lamp and staff again. Okay. When you look at the 1JJ, the Hermit here is very obviously a monk with the shaved head. But once again, lamp and staff, same principle. And there we have a Golden Dawn depiction. Interesting. He's standing in a circle, and that circle is created by an Ouroboros serpent, another symbol for infinity. Very interesting. And you can see there are Hebrew letters in his palms, in the lamp, and possibly at the top of his staff. I'm not sure. So you see the kind of Kabbalistic and, you know, esoteric traditions coming into this image. Okay, so there we have it. The Hermit. Oh, we haven't looked at the Thoth. So Crowley's take is interesting because he likens the Hermit to the Creator. So the esoteric symbolism in here, and the key symbol, I think, is this, right in the corner of the card, is a representation of a sperm cell. So what you have here is the aloneness of the Creator, before he begets the universe or actually brings meaning to the matter of the universe. So again, it's the solitary nature of the hermit, the aloneness. What I do find interesting with this is that aloneness can beget possibilities. That's the whole point behind the image of the creator. There's other symbolism in here as well. You can see the egg of the universe here. So you could think of this as an egg waiting to be fertilized. It's also, the hermit's also surrounded by wheat. And once again, I think of, obviously, I mean, if you're thinking of wheat, you're thinking of grain, you're thinking of seeds. So it's that seed of potential. The lamp, rather than being a star, contains the sun. So again, it's the sun that gives heat and light to the world and makes life possible. Finally, in this card, and a card I think sort of a symbol quite unique, you see here at the bottom the three-headed hound of hell. Now, the symbolism that Crowley is showing behind that is the forces of evil ready to snuff out the light. So there's a lot going on in here. The potential of aloneness, the solitary nature of the creator, the aloneness before fruitfulness, and the dark side of this card, the Hound of Hell snuffing out the light. Maybe we could relate that to the fear of aloneness. I know very often when I've picked this in a reading, that's what I kind of see with this symbol. That bit of us that fights against aloneness, that bit of us that fights against waiting in aloneness for the enlightenment that it will bring. A lot going on here, so there you have it. But yeah, if he appears in a reading, that's taking you into a very solitary realm. That's where your answers are to be found. But also I think the Hermit is a challenge. You know, the Hermit is a challenge for us not to be afraid of solitude. Very often solitude can be a very powerful thing. If it's reversed, you know, I think are we into the realms of fear of solitude, or sometimes are we running away? What we didn't do before is actually look at strength reversed as well. There we are. You know, the fear of aloneness, or maybe running away from the interactions that we need to have. Strength, the passion's out of control, the exact opposite of fortitude. This isn't the rock steady strength in the middle of the storm. It's actually the winds of the storm itself, or the fires of the storm itself. So, yeah. So there we have it. Apologies if I've not been as organised in my presentation with this one. I hope it's helped. Again, take these ideas as you're beginning. Sift through them. Take what, the ones that speak to you the most, work with them, and, form your own connections with these cards. So, in our next lesson, we are going to be stepping into cards 10 and 11, the Wheel of Fortune number 10, and Justice. So the counterpart of Strength in that reordering of the numbers. Normally card 11, but card number 8 in some of the older decks. So I hope you'll join me for the next lesson, and I look forward to seeing you.